Hey, everybody, and welcome to Common Good Conversations, a podcast creating deeper narratives at the intersection of faith and politics for the common good in West Michigan. My name is Nick Brock. That is Sean Skinner.
How are we guys doing today?
Yes.
That was perfect.
We are coming to you live from Park Theater in Holland. And, Sean, we have real people here, just as we hope for.
Real people.
Real people.
It's not terrifying at all.
No, it's not. Sean is feeling right at home. We're going to invite Chris Kleinjans up to the stage here.
How we doing, Chris?
Well, how are you?
Doing good. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being up here. So Chris Kleinjans was selected to run as the Democratic candidate in the District 2 County Commissioner recall election scheduled to take place on May 7. Chris has a 25-year history of working in the nonprofit sector, including in his current position as a community nutrition instructor. Let's see here. You're also on the advisory board of Ottawa Food. You're a member of the American Legion and VFW. Chris, welcome to the conversation.
Thanks.
You know, let's talk about that little piece right here. And this was something that Mark could talk about a little bit too when he comes back up. But so Mark served in the Coast Guard for a number of years. So talk about your connection with the American Legion and the VFW.
Sure. I come from a long line of service, going back to Spanish-American War, I think. So finding myself a little out of sorts after high school, I followed the path that my dad had followed, which was he made a career out of it. I went in for 4 years, served overseas, did 3 tours, one of which was during the first Gulf War, and I was part of the big exodus of people after that, at which point I kind of came back to Holland and started another chapter of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, thank you for your service, and thanks to Mark as well. I also, and this I don't know if this is sounding self-congratulatory now at this point, but I served 10 years in the United States Air Force, 4 years on active duty, took a year off, then did 6 years in the Air National Guard, working with security forces.
Thank you for your service as well.
Oh, you're very welcome, Sean. So let's talk about this. So you are on the advisory board of Ottawa Food, and so there's a big point of contention here about Ottawa Food and between the Board of Commissioners, the Ottawa Impact Commissioners. So there was a recent article from the Holland Sentinel that had this headline. It said, "Unfortunate how it's devolved. Ottawa Food sparks tense debate between board and the health officials," and that was of March 19, just a few days ago. And I'm going to read just a few excerpts here. I won't bore everybody, but there are just some real pieces here that I want to set up that will help to move this conversation along. So, quote, I scratched that out.
Well done.
Let's go here to the part that I got. Quote, "The lack of a coordinator for Ottawa Food has been a recurring problem since dramatic funding cuts were made last year. The Ottawa County Department of Public Health's Nutrition and Health Education line item, referring to its budget, was cut by 48%, which officials from that department warned wouldn't leave enough to fund the position. And then, as expected in November, Ottawa Food's countywide nonprofit partners voted to pause services because of a lack of funding. And then the staff since that time have since requested restored funding to reinstate the position so the programming can resume." And this is the final piece here. So Joe Moss, in the article from 14 November, said, quote, "The board is not defunding Ottawa Food. I'll just say, on the record, I would not like the health department to cut this program. I don't think anyone does. I would venture that no one in the room would want this cut. Finally, and this is from John Gibbs, the former county administrator, says, "The Ottawa County Department of Public Health is fully capable of funding its portion of the Ottawa Food Collaborative. It is instead, speaking about the Ottawa Food, they are instead sadly choosing to engage in theatrics by attempting to needlessly cut high-profile programs in order to score political points." So the Chris, the Ottawa Food is without a coordinator, and with you being, in this, what's going on here? What is the point of contention that Ottawa Impact has a big disagreement with?
So, before I answer, I want to point out that I am currently on a leave of absence from the board, which was effective pretty much from the day that I filed to run in this election, because it would have been not a conflict, but it would have just made that situation more complicated. So I've taken a step back from those board duties for a while, and I'm really looking forward to getting back to the board. But up to that point, I can kind of speak to this situation. So the where the difficulty comes is it is a fact that the health education budget was cut. There are a number of other positions in that budget line besides the Ottawa Food Coordinator. Where it gets weird is that the Ottawa Food Coordinator is a unique position that is not found really in any Department of Public Health throughout the state, and that is because it was created organically within the county based on a need. Now, this is also something I've seen sitting on the board of community mental health, is that when you're talking about county boards that receive federal funding, that comes with very strict parameters in which it has to be used. So health education is a mandate from the state and from the federal government. Certain health education mandates need to be handled by the health department. When you look at that metric, there is no position for a food coordinator because we're the only ones that have a food coordinator. So when that budget cut was made, prioritization had to go to the things that are mandated by the state and the federal government. And it goes by, you fund the things you are mandated to fund. There is no mandate to fund the Ottawa Food Coordinator because it is unique to our county. So where that got, even, and then it gets into the fact, then as far as municipal employment is based on seniority. So in a situation where there is a pretty steep budget cut, when it comes to looking at who stays and who goes, it goes by who's been in place longer. And the food coordinator position Sierra hadn't been there, I think it was her second or third year. So she was the junior person. So by the way the municipal hiring system works, her employment was untenable. Now, she was moved into environmental health because there was a slot there and there was funding there. But the notion that that it was the health department being vindictive to the board does not line up with the parameters by which this organization has to operate under, which preclude legally the board saying, we really wish you wouldn't do that.
Okay, so at the end of the day, the coordinator is not a mandated position.
Not according to, it's not mandated by the state or the federal government who provides funding to the county for health education.
Who then, if there's why does, maybe I'm going too much in the weeds here and you can tell me. So why does there need to be a coordinator if other counties in Michigan don't have one?
So Ottawa Food started out its existence as the Ottawa County Food Policy Council, and many counties have a food policy council. And this is a large table full of everybody that works with food insecurity in the county to try and address those issues. If you've ever worked with a large group of nonprofits, as I have for most of my working career, it is essentially like herding cats. They run this way, they run that way. Every organization that comes to the table has its own mission, and they are primarily devoted to that mission. Part of that mission is serving on this committee. So what happened was, after sort of observing this for a while, the health department was like, we have a little grant funding to maybe help bring someone in that could maybe help herd the cats, whose only job was to herd the cats, because in a normal food policy council, the board is chosen from the nonprofits. And so you get traction, you get results, but you just don't get, a really good, you get forward momentum, but maybe not as much as you could. And so the problem is addressed, but maybe not as well as it could. So with this grant, they funded, they decided they were able to give this a try. And it worked really well because when you have someone whose whole job it is to look at the mission, and, for example, grab some of these 40 plus organizations to do different things, because that's their specialty. It serves their mission and the mission of the organization. So, for example, with health education pieces or nutrition education pieces, that's essentially where I slide in, because if they have either a grant or they have someone in the community come to them with a need, and it involves nutrition education, I would get a call. Do you have time to do this? And we try and work it out and come alongside of them. So, for example, with Senior Project Fresh. Senior Project Fresh has a lot of moving parts. There's an incredible amount of pre-work that goes into making sure those books are delivered out. With that comes a health education component, a nutrition education component. If the health department's setting up, making sure all the paperwork's done, the books come from the state, everything, all the coordination with the apartment supervisors and all of that other stuff, if they can call me in to do the nutrition education piece and take that off their hands, that helps my mission and it helps them achieve their mission. Same thing with if we're looking at trying to increase food distribution to maybe the northeast section of the county where there's not as many pantries as, say, along the west side of the county. Having those resources and knowing everyone around the table means you can pick who you need to talk to when you need to talk to them for the problems that you see coming up. Because again, a nonprofit is going to be in their lane for their mission. So the coordinator position just helps make it go better. It increases capacity. It increases forward momentum. It increases return on investment, because you have someone who is above everything, kind of looking down and making sure that all of us do the things that we do the best and aren't pulled into doing things that aren't necessarily our strong suit.
Like a food manager a little bit.
Essentially.
Yeah. I'm going to ask 3 questions in a row, Sean, and then I'll let you speak. I promise.
I don't need to speak.
Then you have to ask 3 questions in a row.
Who, what, where, why?
3 in a row. Because this is the final one that Chris, you brought up here. I'm wondering, what is the evidence for having Ottawa Food? Is there like metrics and data where the board can say, like, hey, we need this program because it's doing A, B, and C in the county. Like, let's keep it going. Let's get a coordinator in there because it's giving all of these services to the community that the community wants. Are there those metrics?
Yeah, the annual report just came out last week, and it was another highly successful year. With Ottawa Food helping with Community Action House's food rescue program, assisting with that and the distribution of over, I think they're up to 2 million pounds of food, but that wasn't all last year. In addition, we received grants last year to do a lot of purchasing from farmers, which we then redistributed to food pantries, because again, part of the mission is everyone, when they think Ottawa Food, they think food insecurity, and that's very true. It's a huge part of what we do, but it's also to support farmers, and it's also to increase nutrition awareness countywide, because we could all maybe do a little better with the eating thing. But as far as the rollout and retention for Senior Project Fresh vouchers was improved again this year. It's not quite where we would have liked it to be. But purchases from and then the gleaning at the farmers markets distributed. I want to say several tons of food. That expanded to another couple of farmers markets, which was good because those gleaning opportunities that started at Holland and Grand Haven. Those gleaning opportunities at the farmers markets went to the Holland and Grand Haven ones. We were able to move one over into Hudsonville, which again is what we were trying to do, was move them out to farmers markets and sort of increase that capacity so that fresh produce would go right into that region, right into that area's food pantries, and increase the nutritional value that their clients were getting. So those programs all improved. We were looking at kind of like building those out. And then, we had let go of a couple of programs that had become self-sustaining and they didn't require our oversight anymore, which was nice. But it was a very good year as far as like resourcing food throughout throughout the county. Smaller programs from my point, from the nutrition education point, where we had purchased a portable kitchen, and we're moving that through the OCSN Ottawa County School Network, resource people in the schools to have them teach nutrition in the classroom, utilizing hands-on cooking. This kitchen it's awesome. It's about the size of this table. It can go anywhere. Oven, stove, induction cooktop. It's awesome. And so we trained them on that. And so that I know it just came back from Coopersville a couple of weeks ago. So it was a good year.
Because I'm drinking.
This?
I'm just like, go. Three questions.
Do this.
Three questions.
3 questions. There's so much there. It's hard for me to actually get a question wrapped around, because there's a lot there, a lot of answers actually.
Yeah.
He's actually answering questions before I have a chance to actually do it, so which is okay.
Answering his own questions. Let's move into the MLive poll.
Were you handling that? Because it says you right here.
I know. Yeah. But we can improvise. Let's improvise. Go ahead.
So it shows that there's 47.7% of Ottawa County says that the county's on the right track, and 34 say it's on the wrong track. If that's the case, why do you feel like you need to run against it if everyone's saying it's already good?
It's a really good point. One of the things that we've been the fastest growing county in the state of Michigan for a number of years. And part of what comes along with that is the notion that, maybe it will always be that way. There becomes, we have beautiful lake, awesome park system, a continuing, industry coming in, industry doing, expanding, building. There comes there can be this sense of inevitability. This is the way it's always been, and this is the way it's always going to be. And that's not necessarily the case. And, things tip. They don't change radically, instantaneously, but things tip over time. And the first thing I noticed, really starting from the January 3, 2023 meeting, was that this might be a tip. During the recall effort, in the second district, we never disputed the idea that the Board of Commissioners had every right to do what they did, but rather we had every right to question the manner in which they did it. And it was the manner in which they've been conducting themselves, and in particular, the commissioner from the second district, that made me believe that continued non-obeyment of established norms of governance would not help us maintain this thing that took a lot of work and a lot of effort to create, which is a county that was being run well and moving in a positive direction. And it would be easy to stand back and wait and just kind of go, okay, well, let's just see what happens, or it's harder to inject yourself into the process and say, the outcomes don't look well. And perhaps we can stop the hurt that might be coming if we address it before it becomes too deep.
You say the hurt that might be coming. In what way do you say the hurt might be coming? So,
some of the things that have come up, essentially we can start with fiscal. The fiscal management has been interesting. And again, I agree, the tax base is strong. And, the books, when you look at the books, that the books look well. But there is the question of, what could have been done with the money that was spent on legal fees, for example.
Build the roads.
Build the damn roads.
What could be done, for example, with the severance packages that have been paid out? What could be done with what will inevitably be the legal fees and potential judgments against the lawsuits that are still pending? We know what the dollar amount has been so far, but there is also a questionable amount that is still we'll have to wait and find out. Those create, I mean, they just make a look of uncertainty. And again, if this was all happening in a vacuum, it wouldn't matter. Unfortunately, I do know for a fact, because I hang around Fillmore a little bit, is that outside counties are poaching our talent, and have poached a lot of our talent, which has resulted in our institutional memory and of the things that made us that county is sort of going away. So we're losing sort of some of the larger pieces that made us. They created this outstanding bureaucracy that helped us create this outstanding county. And those are things that can't be, you can't go out and shop a facilities manager who's got 20 years of experience. I mean, you can't go out and shop, assistant administrators and administrators that have 20 years experience. It's tough. It's a tough market, and it's going to cost money. And so these things create an air of uncertainty. And if there's one thing I know about business, and I don't know a lot because I'm in nonprofits, is that business hates uncertainty.
Yeah.
With a passion.
I want to speak to a little bit of this uncertainty, but I want to round out this poll information as well. So, Sean, as you noted, there's 47% that say Ottawa County is on the right track. But when it's broken down by party affiliation, there are sharp differences, and then sharp differences by region. So, for example, somebody who considers themselves a strong Democrat, as yourself, Chris, 55% say that the county is on the wrong track. Even those who lean Democratic say that they're on the wrong track, with about 48.9%. But then those in the middle, those independent voters, they also say that they're on the wrong track at 48%. And then now here's the shift in terms of partisan affiliation. A strong Republican, I'll use Mark as an example, is at 58.5%, where they say that they're on the right track. And then those who lean Republican are at 60%. So those are just kind of the larger framework for that poll. And I'll give a little data here too. So it's like, I can hear some of these questions in my head. Well, okay, why is there a poll about Ottawa Impact, and why are these questions out there about how voters feel about Ottawa Impact? And then I can hear that, well, it's whatever you want to say, it's fake news, it's a witch hunt, it's media bias. So I just want to put it out here. The editor for MLive, maybe he saw this coming. I don't know. I haven't spoken to him, but he said MLive has never commissioned a poll. For more than a year, Michigan's fastest growing county, however, has been deeply divided by political changes instigated by an ultra-conservative group that swept into power under the banner of Ottawa Impact. Conflict is everywhere, from protests and shouting to accusations and lawsuits. What do most citizens really think about what is happening politically in their home county? And then finally, I think this is what you and I were talking about, Sean, and partly what we hope to bring to the podcast, is that the average county resident has to get dinner on the table, get their kids to soccer, or in my case, soccer and karate. They just don't have the time. We wanted to get a sense of what those folks who are not hearing from think. And then I'm going to say it again. Finally, it's an election year, and West Michigan is key to knowing how the state will vote. This gives us an inkling of how folks are feeling and serves as a directional guide for important journalism that we plan to do all year long in Ottawa County and across Michigan. So the poll, that's when we talk about what are people thinking, how are they going to vote? Why, when we talk to candidates and bring them up here, we can get your perspective, but we also want to hear that perspective, like from when you go out and canvass, or from when Mark goes out to canvass. So where's my sheet here?
I think you're wondering what he's seen from voters while he's out there on the trail. Did
you just ask your second question?
I did. I did.
Why don't we go with that?
I picked up your slack for a change instead of the other way around. Nice. You're welcome.
Thank you.
And you two are amazing. All right. Yes. I also like that. A note about that is like when you dig deeper into in the narrative from the editor, it also says that a disproportionate, how do they phrase it? A disproportionate number of Republican voters simply could not offer an opinion, which I think is kind of telling, but it does match up with what we've seen canvassing since we were able to get out and when the weather is kinder. So what we've been seeing is that you're exactly right. The second district is a multi-ethnic, hardworking district, and there are a lot of people that have a lot going on. And county politics has been pointed out over and over, has always been kind of like that thing that happens that no one really knows about. I mean, the things get done and things get done. So it hasn't risen to a lot of people's attention because they have other things to do. I mean, it is a tough job living in this county. If you're, if you're both working and you've got a mortgage and you've got, or you're looking for a house or you're dealing with the things and you've got small kids, that's the second district. It's a young district. There's a lot of people on the grind. So we do see that a lot of people that do not really, they haven't been keeping up on what's been going on. And I'm not going to fault anybody for that. It's, you're living life. When my boys were small, and you've got karate and all that stuff. It doesn't become a priority. And I understand that. So primarily what we've been trying to do is voter education and outreach as to what's been going on, and encouraging everybody to go do their own looking. We're not
listen to podcasts.
Yeah, listen to podcasts. Go out and find resources to kind of help fill in what you might want to know, because we do. It is very important. This election is very important.
Oh, okay. Me again. All right. So while speaking of taking your kids to karate and soccer, fun note, I'm testing for my red belt next week.
You are?
I'm on a white belt. I just started karate, man, like a couple months ago. Did you know this?
I did not know that.
Okay.
I did not know that.
Let me take
How come we didn't cover this at the beginning?
Let me take a small aside.
You wanted
here.
To talk about nasal cavities instead. You
I know. I should be talking
this?
about testing for my red belt. So that is happening this coming week. Wyatt, my 7-year-old son, is going to be testing with me as well. So we do it at his school. So his school is just across the way from my house, and so whenever I would go to school prior to this, I would see all these kids walk into the school with their gi, their uniform.
I'm sorry. All I picture is that Seinfeld episode where Kramer was training karate with all the kids, and they jumped him in the side aisle because he was kicking their butts.
Yeah, and also on The Office where Dwight, he goes into the dojo and he does karate with the kids. I do the karate with the kids.
Sure,
I do. It's an all ages class.
I see the ego right now. I'm getting my red belt.
You should see me just wail on those kids. I'm really good. They can't even do anything with me.
I'm sure you got the reach on them.
I do. I've just got a whole bunch of athleticism, and I tell them when they're down, just stay down. Just stay down. There's also an older gentleman, a lot older, and I also tell him, just stay down. You don't feel my wrath, because I'm about to test for my red belt.
Is it because he's so old he just has trouble getting up? He's going to hurt himself if he gets up? Just lay there.
Serious geriatrics here. Yeah. All right.
Press your life alert if you need to get up.
He's good, though. He has a higher belt than me. He's been training.
So you're cocky to someone who's better than you.
I am.
That's not smart at all. You're not going to get that red belt now.
I need to show more respect there. All right.
Talk about going in the weeds.
Yeah, you talk about karate and how it
you
relates
talk about
to,
karate. I didn't talk about karate.
Active. So back to the poll. All right, here's this. The job approval of Ottawa Impact, according to voters, is underwater by nearly a 2-to-1 margin. So voters were asked if they approve or disapprove of the job being done by members of Ottawa Impact. 20% approve of the job they are doing.
36. You hold that out here for you?
Yeah,
I thought you had your glasses.
36% disapprove the job. Now I really can't see. 13 neither approve or disapprove. 28% could not offer an opinion, but here's where I think they wanted to make clear, or the numbers kind of speak a little more loudly, is that 27% strongly disapprove. So when you're out educating voters and speaking to those parents and people who are really busy at karate, at soccer, like you only have a small window with them, right? So you gotta give them the business there. So what are you leading off with? Like what is resonating with people when you say like, well, people strongly disapprove of what they're doing because this?
Right. Typically I talk about the fiscal. Because money, it's dollars and cents, and dollars and cents does have a longitudinal impact over time. The board put out last week that that they had received a AAA bond rating. That's fine. 3 bond rating agencies give that rating. The one that we received recently, they primarily look at books. Others look at books and culture. And so if you have a bond rating agency, which should be according what I remember, they typically arrive around April. They'll look at the books, but they'll also look at the culture of the county, because that determines kind of like your degree of success going forward. Are things going smooth? Are there any surprises? Any weird stuff?
Can you define the culture of the economy?
The culture of the county.
Oh, the county.
Not the economy.
That changes
because
the whole
they
thing.
see that as having a direct impact on the culture of the economy.
Yeah.
So that could be, they could have a different perception of kind of how things are going because of the division that poll speaks to. So the fiscal piece doesn't stop. It will continue to go on, and so I talk about that. We talk about that primarily. Don't really lead into the social issues because people are free to. Again, it goes back to, we don't dispute that they had the right to do the things that they have done, but the manner in which they have done them has cost us a lot of money and created a lot of bad blood. And those are the things that need to be addressed. The actions themselves, it is a positive or a negative depending on your persuasion, but the mechanics by which they've operated under have created a strain on the system that could have longitudinal impacts for the health of the economy going across another decade. Because these things don't undo themselves overnight.
You can drive from point A to point B, just don't drive on the sidewalk.
Yeah, I think that's one way of putting it.
Good point.
I see you.
Nice.
I see you there. I see you working. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my brain working at top capacity right there.
Well, then my brain went to I think a Seinfeld episode. I think.
Oh, jeez, we're back there now.
Yeah. Do you have any follow-up questions? Because then we'll move on to the next segment.
Next segment, please.
Next segment it is. So this is an audience reminder. So audience members, if you have a question for either Chris or Mark when he comes back up, remember to get those to my lovely assistant in the back there. And then in about a few minutes, I'll have her bring those up here as well. All right, so So I'm really excited about this piece. This is a new piece to the podcast and the work with Vote Common Good West Michigan. Is for this year, we've created a platform so that we could have common good candidates. Now, we've had common good candidates in years previous where we supported the incumbent commissioners from the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners, a bunch of candidates for school board and things like that around Ottawa County and Kent County. All that is where we are really focused on state level candidates from, as small as like a library board position. I would use an example at Patmos Library, maybe in Jamestown, all the way up to a state senator or a state representative. So anything that's federal is left up to the parent organization, Vote Common Good. So I've brought all this together to say that we have a new platform, and Chris is our first candidate for 24 to represent that platform. So Chris is a common good candidate here in West Michigan, and I want to just give a brief overview of what this means. So there are a few things that a common good candidate has to commit to, and then there's a pledge that they pledge to as well. So the first thing is they commit to trustworthy leadership. And I'm just going to read this a bit here. So it says, I, as Chris or any candidate, says, I will earn public trust by embodying a deep sense of civic responsibility as a public servant. I will commit to the highest intellectual, moral, and civic standards essential for a well-functioning democracy. Next, responsible governance. I will practice accountability, teamwork, prudence, moderation, and justice. I'm going to keep moving on here. Genuine belonging. I will serve the needs of the entire community over self-interest and partisan interest alone. I commit to ethical conduct, which means I will discharge my responsibilities with integrity. Service before self. I will adhere to my oath of office and faithfully discharge the duties with professionalism, courage, and humility. And finally, which has been a staple for a common good candidate, is the Love in Politics pledge, which means that I will commit to an ethic of love in my public and political life that advocates for the common good of all. So that's our common good candidate platform. So Chris, I'd like to thank you for participating in that. And then to make clear for our audience here and for listeners is that we do not endorse Chris. This is an endorsement where Chris endorses the common good and this platform. So Chris, I'd love for you to share just some of your thoughts about this if you have any.
Sure. So this was relatively easy. As I mentioned, I've done essentially a lifetime of service in various capacities. My first was my service to my country, with the military, and I came back and I found an awesome, tolerant, patient woman, and we got married. Then I was serving my family because I was trying to raise two boys while going to school and working full time and trying to get my career in the nonprofit field going. And then my boys grew up like they do, and geez, then they left the house. But at that point, I was when I my involvement with Ottawa Food as a member of Ottawa Food kind of deepened and enhanced, and I was asked to join that board, and then shortly after that, I joined. I applied and was appointed to a term on the Community Mental Health Board. Along with the civic work that I've done as a member of the Legion and the VFW, and so doing service has always been part of what that was my grandpa. I mean, he came back from the Second World War and he helped start the Holland Fishing Game Club, the Pigeon Club out in Zeeland, the VFW in Holland. I mean, the Ruby Creek Fishing Game Club. I mean, he was let's do things. He was a let's do things guy, and I kind of must have gotten a little bit of that from him. 3-4 years ago, I was given the incredible gift of going through the Emerging Leaders Program from an organization called the Great Lakes Leadership Academy. It's a year-long program that works on leadership development, and the entire credo of that was leadership for the common good. And that galvanized the lens through which I saw just about everything that I wanted to do. Was the common good and how the common good is defined by each of us, and that really had a profound effect on me and made me to really want to do more than what I had been doing. And when this started happening, not even in January. I mean, because if you were looking, you could kind of see how things were going to go, even in the summer of 22. I mean, this shouldn't have been a surprise to anybody. What was I going to do to address this? I have had no aspirations for political office, and as I've told more than a few people whose doors I've knocked on, this is about as high as I'd like to go. I'd like to go back to just sort of doing a lot of running and working at my job and kind of the way you are running. Oh yeah, there you go. I gotcha. The other running is I prefer. But But what I do want to do is I want to help my community get back to true. And what I mean by true is I don't mean true. I mean, we're a little off balance. True is level. Level is equal. Level is representational. Level is equity. Level is those things. My undergrad's in history, and I worked at the museum across the street from here for about 7 years. And so knowing the area's history, which has been part of my history for over 150 years when my family arrived to help settle Zealand, has been something that I've always been super passionate about. And I understand a lot. And there are a lot of conceptions about those Dutch people, and a lot of stereotypes about those Dutch people. But one thing I do know about this county and this area is that very few people got here on a winning streak by some sort of magic. This became a place where you could come and find your success, whatever it was, however you defined it. No one had to define it for you. And successive waves of people have come here looking for that, and they have found a space here. And it is important for our county government to continue to do the good work so that everybody who wants to come here to find their dream or their story can have as much access to it as we can give them, as much with as equal a level playing field as we can. That's the essence of governance for the common good, and because it does the best for the most. And that's why I was brought into this. And it was the opportunity to do something that I feel very strongly we might have a harder time regaining if we don't work at it now, right now, this day now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, I appreciate you being a common good candidate, and I look forward to hearing from other candidates that want to commit to this program. If you are interested in that, you can find more details at the website Vote Common Good West Michigan, or you can email me or talk to me after today's program. So there's two things before. So Mark's going to come back up pretty soon here. If there are any questions that are wanting to be asked, I'd have. Is there anything? Yeah. Okay. Here. Yeah. Why don't you send those up?
I can go grab them from her.
She's gonna walk all the way back from the way back. So here's the thing too. So Chris, you talked about kind of this Dutch culture. So this is something that Sean and I have talked about before. Is when. All right, you need to put on your thinking cap here. When you go to a chain supermarket store to get your groceries, to get some clothes items, maybe to get some plants, things of that nature, there's a store here that has kind of, what is it, like red or orange lettering across the front. Now, I am interested in how you pronounce that store name. So when you go to this place...
It took me a second, but I got there.
When you go to this store, where are you going? You are going to...
Meyer.
Hey, we got a Meyer. We got a Meyer. Because, Sean, you say what?
Myers.
Now, is there an apostrophe S on
it is Myers. The store is a Myers store.
It is a... No, it's not. It is a Meyer store.
You set me up.
We've already talked about this.
I know.
I can tell this is a hotly debated thing. I'm glad that Chris pronounced.
Is anybody else going to back me up here? I got one hand. I got two hands. There you go.
Yeah.
See, I'm not alone in this.
See, I know this.
Way to single me out.
This runs deep. Talk about political polarization.
I'm still confused why there's a J in there, and I don't hear that J anywhere.
Oh, and you're talking get into that.
You're talking about a letter that you don't hear and a letter you don't see.
It's there.
The S isn't there.
I'm sorry. The S. All right, so we're going to wind this thing down. We got maybe 10 minutes here. what we do in the
plane,
podcast
as you normally
here.
say. We're going to land the plane.
We're going to land this plane. Sean,
Nick.
Sean, do you have any final takeaways? I mean, this was a big session, and for you in the audience, I appreciate you being here and sitting with us because this is a lot to talk about. So you're big troopers here.
A lot to take in.
A lot to take in.
That's why you listen to the podcast again later, and you can really absorb it all in.
Yeah, go to that podcast. What's our podcast? Common Good Conversations. You can find it on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts.
I love how you answered my question there. I vocalized that very well.
Did you ask my takeaway? I don't want to talk. You go ahead.
No. You go. You're good at it. You're better at it than I am.
Takeaways.
But I did learn there is no S on Myers. There's no S on Meyer.
There is no S in Meyer. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And a natty pod apparently cannot be used by our father-in-law.
Well, we don't know that yet. I mean, he still has to get into that.
I could text him real quick. We can
Yeah,
find
yeah,
out.
you
Don't
can. Well,
want
he's not
to
feeling
leave
very
them
good
a cliffhanger.
He was supposed to be here today, but he's not feeling very well.
Yep.
Oh, man. We really appreciate you being here. And this is my final thing before we get out. This is my PBS moment where I express my gratitude in saying that we need viewers like you. We need your support to keep things going, to help us inspire, energize, and mobilize the good people of West Michigan in 2024. So I'm asking if you could chip in $10, $25, $50, or if you're a big roller, $100, or any amount that'll help us create deeper narratives at the intersection of faith and politics for the common good. And when you donate, you can donate by using the QR codes at your table there, or you can go to the back table and we can hook you up with some t-shirts, stickers, and yard signs like this one right here that says, I will support common good candidates. So this will keep us going with the podcast, get out the vote rallies, and educational voter engagements.
Very well said.
Finally landing the plane. Thanks, everybody, for joining this special episode of Common Good Conversations. And this is where our music guy would cue the outgoing music. There he is.
Hey, there
Thank
we
you,
are.
Alec.
Hey, look at that. It's like we're professionals.
Be sure to share
Thank
this
you very
program
much.
with your family and friends. Till next time, be the common good in West Michigan. Grace and peace.
You guys have a good one. Thanks for coming.